Okay, so normally I turn on my camera and I'm on screen talking about stuff, and I really wanted to just kind of keep the camera off. I want you guys to minimize this screen while you're browsing social media or reading articles online or whatever it may be. Consider this like a podcast. But here on Destination PW, I talk about what's happening in pro wrestling. And this past month and a half, honestly, I haven't been good at my job. And that's definitely going to change. I'm working on some stuff that's really important to the channel. But I didn't want to ignore this story because several WWE stars are reportedly unhappy with being in NXT and they want to sign with AEW. And it's a really interesting thing because in 2019, the wrestling world has changed. And there's a lot of ways you can be successful in pro wrestling. And one example that I really like to use, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the character or whatever, Joey Ryan has figured out a way to be successful without the help of AEW or WWE. And now he just recently signed with Impact Wrestling. And one of the reasons why he did that was because Impact is allowing him to be himself. The same Joey Ryan that made himself really popular on the independent scene is the Joey Ryan that Impact Wrestling wanted. And now Impact Wrestling is allowing him to work independent dates. They're basically giving him the control that he needs to continue being successful. And I think this is something that a lot of wrestlers need to take notes from. You know, I understand that AEW is going to look like a really nice option at first, but nobody knows if AEW will be successful long term, and nobody knows if NXT will be successful long term. I mean, NXT's been around for what, 5 or 6 years, and now it's on cable television, and of course the ratings aren't exactly where they should be. It's very interesting when you look at the numbers, but to me personally, I don't give a shit about the numbers. I think a lot of people like to use that as a piece for argument. I don't, because I think in 2019, the way that we consume entertainment is so different from the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, social media and streaming services and YouTube and all of this different stuff that's out here. I mean, you don't have to watch live wrestling to hear about everything that happened in live wrestling, especially in this past month and a half. I've been watching NXT and AEW, but for the most part, I watched it on DVR. So ultimately, the world has changed. I can understand why people would not be happy in NXT, right? There's something that you are competing against. You're definitely not winning against this company in terms of numbers, if that matters to you. And also when it comes to internet popularity, which, by the way, kind of does matter now, right? Because like I said, in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, you know, social media wasn't a thing. But now that it's a real thing, you can have, you know, peer-to-peer communication instantaneously with people around the world who will give an opinion on whatever it may be. To you, those opinions might actually matter, right? So in my opinion, I can see why people might not want to be in NXT because they read social media and they see that AEW is the new thing and NXT really just isn't that popular in the internet's perception. They might not even be happy with NXT because reportedly they're not getting raises for being on USA Network. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't cut the checks. I don't read the checks. And I sure as hell don't get paid for them. So I don't know if that's actually true. But again, that could be a reason why you're not happy. But I think what people have to learn with what's happening in pro wrestling right now is that things are going to continue to evolve. And I think as time goes on, I think we're going to see a lot more wrestlers actually try the Joey Ryan route. A lot of the guys in AEW, that's pretty much what they did. They made themselves known on the indie scene. And because they made themselves known, they grew so big so quickly that they became the number 2 company in North America. Just by a snap of a finger. So ultimately, I think that is the better route for wrestlers to go. I don't like using the word influencer, but in a way, every human being is an influencer. And I always like to bring it back to something specifically with like shopping at a store, right? So imagine you're a consumer. You are listening to this podcast right now. You go to Target and you buy a Target branded t-shirt. And it has the Target logo on it, right? You walk out the store, you go to a restaurant, you go to the mall, whatever it may be. You paid $20 for this t-shirt and you are marketing Target. They didn't have to pay you for that, right? Now imagine you are somebody of some important stature, right? Like you're on social media, you have a following. Brands know that you bring attention and awareness to their product, they're going to pay you. Imagine being an independent wrestling star, who has built such a name for themselves that they are now getting brand deals. And instead of you paying Target for the $20 t-shirt, Target gives you the t-shirt and $100,000 to wear it. Now, these numbers, of course, they're all fake. I'm just making up stuff. But the world has completely changed in 2019, and I could see a lot more wrestlers going that route. Whether or not they want to sign with AEW or NXT or WWE, perhaps going the independent route is the best route. I mean, if I was unhappy and I was in NXT, I'm not sure what AEW is going to be able to offer me. I mean, if you look at AEW's product, as good as it is, there's a lot of people who have not been used on weekly television, and instead they've been used for AEW Dark, which is on YouTube. That tells me AEW has more confidence on the guys with established names than the ones who obviously don't. And as time goes on, that will eventually change. But if I'm somebody from NXT, I don't know if I necessarily want to go to AEW until I know that I'm going to be prominently featured on that show. So perhaps maybe the idea would be to go the independent route. I don't know what's going to happen here, guys. I don't know if people are going to start leaving NXT or AEW. But it's an interesting time for pro wrestling fans, and I really did not want to ignore this. Normally, like I said, I would get on camera and I would talk about it and I would prep myself up, but I really just want to talk about this before it gets outdated because, I'm working on some other content, basically, that's happening right now. I'm working on some other content. It's requiring some more editing and more techniques and things that I'm learning. So I want to take a break from all the editing, and I just kind of want to talk for a minute. Normal content will resume this week. You guys will see things get better on the channel. So if you guys want to subscribe, go ahead and click that button. But of course, go ahead and click that like button as well. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Follow me on Twitter @TangoWithAngo, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.